I adjusted my hair for the third time, nervously watching the mirror. It had been a while since Jake invited me anywhere, let alone to something as glamorous as his office party. 7 years married, and lately, it felt like we were just coexisting, cohabiting schedules, dinner routines, and half-finished conversations. I told myself this night could be a reset, a spark, something new, or something old we'd forgotten. Jake had been promoted a month ago, regional director. I was proud, I really was, but along with his new title came late hours, business trips, a password change on his phone, and a different cologne I didn't recognize. I asked about it once. He brushed it off with a smile. New image, new role, he'd said. Logical. Reasonable. But it stuck with me. When we arrived at the venue, Jake immediately vanished into handshakes and laughter. I lingered by the drink table longer than I intended. The place was sleek, full of people in polished suits and glittering dresses. A world I didn't quite fit into anymore. I clutched my clutch and smiled through small talk with unfamiliar faces. Then she appeared, Lena. He introduced her quickly, almost too quickly. This is Lena, my assistant. She keeps me sane, he laughed. She was young, confident, with one of those perfectly effortless looks. And her hand lingered a second too long on Jake's arm. I noticed. And I noticed him not noticing that I noticed. Throughout the night, Lena floated in and out of every group like she owned the room. Every time she passed Jake, she touched him, shoulder, back, sometimes just brushed fingers when handing him a drink. I sipped wine I didn't like and reminded myself not to be ridiculous. Jake wasn't a cheater. We were fine. Just distant. Busy. Right? But things felt off. He was attentive, but only in bursts. Moments of affection that felt rehearsed. He introduced me as the wife once. Not my wife. Just the wife. I laughed it off. Maybe I was overthinking everything. Maybe I wasn't. A colleague, someone from finance, smiled at me gently and said, "You're very gracious." I blinked. "I'm sorry?" I asked. She backtracked quickly, muttering something about how supportive I must be of Jake's demanding schedule. But her eyes said something else. Something uncomfortable. I smiled and nodded and walked away. Later, Jake leaned in close, warm breath on my cheek, and whispered, "Having fun?" I forced a smile and said yes, but something in me whispered back, "No." I wasn't. I was waiting. For what, I didn't know. Maybe for the rest of the night to prove me wrong. Maybe for my gut to finally shut up. Maybe just for Jake to look at me the way he used to, even if only for 1 second. But that second never came. And that look never did. Not once. Jake disappeared for the third time, this time without a word. I stood alone by the buffet, holding a plate I had no intention of eating from. People around me laughed, mingled, took selfies. I wasn't part of any of it. I scanned the room for him, half expecting to see him walking toward me with that apologetic smile he used when he forgot I existed. Instead, I caught sight of him across the room, Lena by his side again. Her hand rested lightly on his shoulder, and she was whispering something in his ear. He laughed, head thrown back. He didn't even glance around to see where I was. I tried not to stare, but I wasn't the only one watching. A man I didn't know leaned in toward another coworker and said quietly, "Isn't his wife here tonight?" They both fell silent when they noticed me. I looked away, cheeks burning. Whatever was going on, other people noticed. I wasn't imagining this. And it wasn't just a harmless work friendship. Jake finally returned, acting like nothing had happened. I asked where he'd gone. "Phone call," he said, taking a sip of champagne. No apology, no details. Just that. Then his phone buzzed again. He checked it instantly, fingers moving fast before slipping it back into his pocket. "Everything okay?" I asked, pretending I didn't feel the shift in the air. "Yeah, just work stuff," he said. I made my way to the restroom, not because I needed to go, but because I needed to breathe. On my way back, I bumped into a woman from HR, Sharon, I think. We exchanged polite hellos. She gave me a hesitant smile and said, "You're handling this really well." I tilted my head. "Handling what?" I asked. Her eyes widened like she'd said too much. Oh, just the stress. The promotion, the long hours. It's a lot. For any couple. She left before I could ask more. I stood still for a moment, thoughts swirling. How many people knew something I didn't? Was I the only one in the dark? Lena left the party a little after that. No goodbyes, no waves. Jake noticed barely. Checked his phone again. 10 minutes later, he said, "Back in a sec, someone from upper management wants to talk outside." He didn't wait for me to respond. I didn't believe him. I followed, not right away, but a few minutes after. My legs moved before my mind could catch up. I wasn't planning to confront him. I just needed to know. Needed to see. Maybe I hoped I was wrong. Maybe I hoped he was out getting air or taking a real call. But deep down, I already knew. Everything in me. Every glance, every silence, every unanswered question was finally making sense. He wasn't just distant. He wasn't just stressed. He was hiding something. And tonight I was going to find out exactly what it was. I followed the hallway quietly, unsure what I'd find but certain I couldn't ignore it any longer. The corridor twisted, muffling the sounds of the party behind me. Then I heard it, soft laughter. A woman's voice. His voice. I paused, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Another giggle. Then a murmur I couldn't make out, but I knew who it belonged to. A door was open slightly ahead. Light spilled out just enough to catch the edge of a shadow. I stepped closer, careful, slow, and looked through the gap. I didn't need more than a second. It was them. Jake's hands were on Lena's waist, her blouse half open. His mouth was on her neck. They didn't hear me. Not right away. I don't know if I gasped or if the door creaked, but suddenly he turned. His eyes locked with mine. Everything stopped. Lena froze, lips parted. Jake's hands dropped, as if that would erase what I'd seen. For a second, no one spoke. He opened his mouth to say something, but I turned and walked away before he could. My legs moved fast, almost mechanical. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too stunned to cry. I passed people in the hallway who smiled politely, unaware of the shattering that had just happened. My face must have been blank, because no one stopped me. I made it outside, got in a cab, and only then did the shaking start. I stared out the window, my reflection looking like a stranger. Every doubt, every late night, every lie he told now had an answer. And I had no questions left. The driver asked if I was okay. I nodded. My throat was tight, and I couldn't speak. I replayed the past few weeks in my head, him coming home late, the way he guarded his phone, how he stopped touching me without explanation. The subtle shift in his scent, the empty compliments, the way he made me feel invisible. He'd already left me before tonight. I was just the last to know. Back home, I moved like a ghost. I didn't even take off my shoes. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, staring at nothing. Then I got up and opened our shared closet. One by one, I pulled out the things I knew I'd never wear again. Not because they were his favorite, but because I'd worn them trying to impress a man who had already chosen someone else. I packed a small bag, just the essentials. No dramatic rage. No broken glass. I didn't need to destroy anything. He'd done enough damage all on his own. My phone buzzed, his name lighting up the screen. I didn't answer. Another message came in. Then another. Apologies, probably. Excuses. I didn't open them. I didn't want words. I wanted truth, and I already had it. Nothing left to explain. Nothing left to save. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my body still but my mind running laps. His texts kept coming. Then the calls. I let every one of them ring out. I didn't need to hear his voice to know what he'd say. There's a tone cheaters use. It's part guilt, part damage control. I wasn't interested in either. By morning, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was done. I called a lawyer first thing, one recommended by a friend years ago, just in case. I never thought I'd use it, but I was glad I had it. The receptionist didn't even flinch when I said infidelity. She just scheduled the consultation. I guess people like me call every day. Jake showed up at the apartment mid-morning. I didn't answer the door. He knocked for almost 10 minutes. I sat on the couch and listened. Eventually, he left. He slipped a note under the door. I didn't read it. I already knew the script. He made a mistake. He was confused. It didn't mean anything. He still loved me. But the truth was simple. If it didn't mean anything, he wouldn't have risked everything. I called my sister and told her everything. She didn't say, "I told you so," though she could have. She just listened. Then she offered her guest room, no questions asked. That night, I stayed at her place. It was quiet, warm, nothing fancy, but I slept. The first real sleep in weeks. Over the next few days, I started sorting through the pieces. I closed our joint account. I canceled our anniversary dinner reservations. I threw out the photo frame he gave me last Christmas. To forever, it said. Turns out forever had a 3-month shelf life. I started showing up for myself in small ways. Joined a fitness class. Made a therapy appointment. Reached out to friends I'd drifted from. I wasn't trying to distract myself. I was trying to remember who I was before I shrunk myself to fit his world. The silence stopped feeling heavy. It started feeling clean. A week later, he asked to meet. One last talk. I agreed. Not for closure, I already had that. But to say what needed to be said. We met at a cafe. He looked tired, pale. He started with, "I'm sorry," and I let him speak. Then I told him I was filing and that I didn't hate him. I just didn't respect him anymore. And that was worse. He nodded. There were tears. But they weren't mine. I left with no regrets. I wasn't walking away from a marriage. I was walking back to myself. I didn't know what came next, but I wasn't afraid of it anymore. And that night, for the first time in years, I poured a glass of wine, curled up with a book, and didn't feel like I was missing anything. Because I wasn't. I had everything I needed, me.